this video, I'm making one of these Erdl shops, the 1/64 scale. Now these have become very popular. I had them when I was a kid, I had a big setup, but these little toy barns, toy shops, stuff like that, it's become very popular, especially in my area. So we've actually got a club that I'm helping make one of these out of wood, and that's basically really what this video is for, is for those kids. But what we're doing is we're gonna make it out of wood, and so stuff like that don't happen. They keep on trying to pop out. There we go. So what we're gonna do, this is what we're doing. Shop. I mean, it's got a couple little walk-in doors. There's one right there. And there's one back here on this side that is just not cut out. Well, we're gonna cut them out. That way, you know, kids are playing with it or whatever, they can make it look like a man's walking out. It's a big setup type deal. So, and I'm hoping, I'm still figuring out in my head how I can make it work, but I'm hoping to have a like the actual doors for the shop be sliding in and out. So, you know, just things we're working on. So I'm gonna get to it. Y'all stick around.
After picking my pieces, I cut them in the miter saw and then took them over to the joiner, where what a joiner does is if your board's warped or anything, it flattens that out and makes a good straight surface. Then after jointing the face of the boards, I took them over to the planer to plane them down to 1/2 inch thick. I didn't want to be too bulky, so I just took it on down to 1/2 inch. And then we took it back to the joiner where I joined one edge. That way it was set up for the table saw. So at the table saw, we could cut it down to the desired width that we needed. Therefore, they were all even. After they were cut with the table saw, I took it back over to the miter saw once again and squared up one edge of the board and then cut them to length. That way all the ends were straight.
I found center for my peak. I also found center and measured for my door, and I went ahead and made my layout for my roof pitch. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick both these on top of each other, square them up and put them in my vise. Then I'm going to put screws in, one in each part of my cutout on my roof pitch and a couple in my door, and we're going to cut them out on the bandsaw at the same time. That way we have exact duplicates instead of trying to do each one of them individual. You can get off that way, and it could cause you some trouble. So some things it don't matter, but some things it does. So stick these in here. It don't matter if you sink them all the way, you just want to sink them where they're good and tight. You also want to use screws, well, that's going to go all the way through. You don't want to use screws that will go through it because it's going to affect your saw. So I'm going to have to find some shorter ones, and I don't think I have any, so we're going to figure something out here. Okay, so those original screws were too long, so we don't want to use them. These measure out, I believe it was 5/8 or 3/4. 3/4. So and what we're doing is 1/2 inch thick. These walls are 1/2 inch thick, so these screws work a whole lot better. They won't go through, it won't affect the saw. So we're gonna put these in there. You can see where I put the 2 screws before, pull them back out. I am going to sand the bottom right there to get those little indentions out of it. But I put on the outside on my waste pieces. This way, as I cut it, the boards won't be moving every which way, and they actually line up good, and we get duplicates just perfect. So let's get over. I'm going to drill some holes from the drill press and these corners, just away from the corner. That way it don't intrude in the actual piece, but at the same time, it gets it to where it gives a good spot relief on the bandsaw when we turn to make the cut down through here and then this cut. So let's do that next.
I didn't turn my camera on there at the drill press, but I drilled a couple holes and trying to make sure that I didn't protrude past that line. And then very carefully at the bandsaw, I went through and followed that line as best possible to cut the door out plus the pitch for the roof. Now also, something to keep in mind is as you're cutting the boards you got that screwed together, well, you won't have a screw there no more, so they will want to try to open up some. So if you do this, be very, very careful. Once I got the door cut out, there was still the corners where the drill bit was round, and I didn't cut all the way to the corners to make that good 90-degree cut. So I went through with the bandsaw and cut that little section out, give it a nice clean look.
So I just realized when I went to drill the holes, I forgot to turn the camera on. It happens. I apologize. But we got 2 identical pieces. We just need to go, I'm probably gonna use the router table, put in a 1/2-inch rabbet on these end pieces for the side walls to set into. It gives you a good gluing surface, not just on the end, but also on the side as well. So we're gonna set that up, and we're gonna cut that next. And I'm gonna use glue and pin nails for this, so that way pin nails act basically as a clamp. So while that's drying, we can work on the roof or decide what else I'm gonna do. I'm not fully decide how I'm gonna do the roof just yet, but we'll get to that when it comes to it.
I set up a straight bit in my router table, and cutting this rabbet, I wanted to do it 2 cuts versus just 1 total cut, because that's a 1/2 inch is a big chunk to take out. So I set it up, I cut all of them at this original setup, and then I moved my fence back some to cut that second one. That way it's a full 1/2 inch when I'm done. And then I took the sidewalls over to the drill press, and I just drilled out one hole. This is for that walk-in door that's on the side. Therefore, we can cut it out with the bandsaw. And I could have cut it straight without the hole, but you wouldn't have no relief, and I've broke bandsaw blades like that before. So once that was cut, took it over the bandsaw, and we cut it straight out. And then cut, like I did earlier, that little section on the front. We cut it like you see right there. Well, my arm wasn't in the way you could see. There you go. We cut that little extra out that the drill bit left. Once the doors was cut out, I decided how cool it'd be to look and make the floor look like it's a concrete floor. So I cut out a couple pieces of 1/4-inch plywood. It's just a hair bigger than the size of the building itself, because I need a little extra on the ends for the sliding door I'm going to do.
Assembling this, you want to be careful with the glue, because you don't want glue all over your finished product on these barns or anything really, but you want to make sure you get it in that little groove right there. That's where basically your holding power is going to be. Stick that on there, get nice and tight in that rabbit. Well, or do like I did and mess it up. And by the time you get paint and everything, you won't even be able to tell those nails are there. Painted, stained. We're going to stain it. Let's see. Let's pop this. Yeah, let's pop this in there. So I didn't decide what color I'm going to stain it though. I made a bottom. I didn't want to, but I got thinking how cool this look if it had a bottom that was stained like a concrete floor. May even put a few black spots of stain on there, make it look like an oil stain, because I don't know a shop this side of anywhere that don't have oil stains on the floor. This is a wood shop and I've got oil stains on the floor. Another reason I made this bottom, for the sliding doors I'm gonna put on it, I gotta have some on the bottom, so let's go ahead and make the bottom solid. It's pretty good. The fun part about this is getting this bottom even, because I gotta hang it over a little bit on every side, so I'm sure I'm gonna hear from people, oh, you don't need that, don't do that. Well, too late, I already did.
While that glue was drying, I took some 1/4-inch plywood and started working on the sliding doors. I had to have a way for the doors to stay on the building, so I decided to set up my router table and create a track for the doors to slide in. So I cut another rabbet in this board, and then I will go through and cut the actual size I need in the table saw. That way I don't have just a big old chunk of wood right there on top. I cut most of it off with the table saw, but I left just a little bit because I'm going to pin nail this as well, and I need some room for the pin nails to go. But it created a nice track for this door to sit in. It wasn't too bulky and gave a more of an authentic look to it. So once the glue was dry, I set everything up with the track, and I made sure the doors would slide decent, made some marks, and centered it up. Then I glued and pin nailed it on as well. As you can see, everything slides nice, and I am happy with with the outcome of it. After that glue dried, I flipped it over and done the exact same on the other side. I decided to use 1/4-inch plywood for the top as well, and I cut 2 sections that were the same for both sides of the roof, and then I cut a smaller section to use as the ridge cap. Now I ended up lowering my saw blade down to cut like part of the thickness of the ridge cap. Therefore, to get it, I could bend it a little bit and get that angle. Now you can see right here, I'm setting up my ruler to help figure out the height that's going to need to be. And once the height was adjusted, I set up the actual width that I needed. That way I cut in the center and went through and cut very carefully that little groove in the ridge cap, and then I angled or bent it a little bit and set it up, and then we glued it up, and I ended up having to clamp it down to get it to glue, or to get it to hold and get it where it would stay bent that way. As I was rubbing in the glue, I tried to make sure I got ample glue in that groove. That way it would dry as well and help hold that shape. Now, I wouldn't have to go through and put extra bracing or anything on the roof itself to hold that shape.
Sometimes you gotta use a little help. A call, if you will. It's actually what's called a call. So sometimes you're gonna need it to help get the glue to dry. Just dry like it should. The position it needs to dry. Sometimes it's gonna move on you, like this one seems to be wanting to do. This is by far my favorite thing to do in the world, is woodworking. Next to deer hunting. But they both can be challenging, frustrating, and they have their moments to be a complete pain. But I absolutely love both of them. Let me get another clamp. We're gonna let this dry. Let this, hoping when I come back to it, the glue's dried and it's dried in a way that it's not going to misshape the lid. And I may have to go in and put some, like, make it look like timbers, cross braces, like try trusses going across to keep this lid, to keep it shaped, this roof, keep it shaped. But other than that, I am pleased with it. This little shop, and yeah, probably gonna let it sit overnight. So I'll come back.